Everybody, Daryl is here, and again for today's Muscle Monday, we're going to be going over the handstand. And just like every other Muscle Monday, we'll be going over synergists, agonists, antagonists, and the biomechanics. So let's start with biomechanics. Now, if you've ever talked to somebody about handstands who knows what they're talking about, a big concept that they're going to try and introduce to you is joint stacking. And so it's exactly what it sounds like. You're trying to stack your joints on top of each other so that way it is the easiest, it makes it the most easiest thing for your body to handle and for you to hold yourself up. Now, when you first start out, you will probably end up doing one of two things. Now, for reference, the bottom part here are going to be your wrists, the top part are going to be your toes. And so, again, like I said, so you'll end up doing probably one of two things, is that your right here is fine, but now you cave in a little bit too much at your stomach. So you are bringing your toes down to the ground and you're going this way, right? So even you're typically with people who, no matter how hard you kick up, you can't actually get up into that handstand. It feels like it's almost impossible to actually go all the way back up to straight. Or if you're like me, my problem is that even if I could kick up to straight, I could never hold it and bring myself back to center, and I would always end up falling off to the side just because you're arching your back so hard that you're kicking those feet and almost trying to bring them to your head. And in a perfect world, with great handstand people, we want to have somewhere in the middle, right? We want all these joints to be stacked on top of each other. We want ankles over knees, over hips, over shoulders, head, neck, over elbows, over wrists. And this is going to be the easiest position that we can get for our handstand. Now, there are different handstand variations, but for the intents and purposes of this video, we're going to be talking about specifically the straight up and down handstand. So let's go ahead, let's get into the agonists of the handstand. So these muscles will be your main agonists and antagonists in the bottom portion or top portion, however you want to think about it, for your handstand. So the whole entire shoulder, both anterior, middle, and posterior deltoids, are going to be active in your handstand. You can almost think of them as the quad. I like to kind of almost think of them as the quads of the handstand, as they're going to be the weight bearing and weight supporting muscle for this exercise. And then your second agonist will be your tricep. You can kind of think of it almost like your calf for this, as it stays straight. This is also going to help keep everything nice and stable, keeps everything together. Now, this can be closer to maybe a agonist or a synergist, maybe your forearm flexors, but as you hold yourself up, depending on, you have to balance yourself especially. So this will be like your ankles. This is going to be like the ankles of the handstand. So as you're holding yourself up, you're going to have to balance and play with where your tipping point is at, and your wrists are going to very acutely influence what ends up happening at that top part of your tower or your handstand stack. Now, for your antagonists are going to be your biceps. Again, they work in direct contrast to the tricep. They're just going to be there holding it mostly for stability. Same thing with your forearm extensors. They're just going to be the things that keep everything here nice and tight. They're not going to be, there's basically, it'll be a push and a pull, and they're just going to be doing the opposite of what the forearm flexors. When you relax your forearm flexors, these tighten up. When you start tightening these up, they start to relax. Similar to the bicep and the tricep, right? So as this is completely tight and straight, this is going to be completely relaxed, okay? So without further ado, let's go ahead and move on to now the torso part of our agonists and antagonists. Now, when it comes to the agonists and antagonists of the like torso portion of your handstand, torso to leg portion of your handstand, I like to think that depending on what kind of tipper you are, these are kind of interchangeable. So I'm going to approach this from my personal, the way that I personally tip. I like to tip I naturally tip forward, where where I bring my heels down to the ground, and if anything did happen, I'd almost land in a bridge, but I can't do that. So I fall over and I come out of it. So the biggest thing that I have to think about when I try to make my agonist is that I really have to think about squeezing my abdominals, that I really have to think about bringing them together. I have to pull everything down, because I can't let my back go arch out. I have to try and pull everything down and get my hips and everything underneath me. And also, I apologize for this not being entirely anatomically correct, but this is mostly from the side view, so whatever, it's fine. So again, I really have to think about squeezing and pulling everything down and not letting myself tip over too much. Same thing with my glutes. Now, my glutes can contribute a little bit to that pulling and that having that bow shape pulling forward, but if I can really think about the abdominals, is honestly where it's going to be. Like, the abdominals and your whole entire back are going to be the things that are interchangeable the most. Quads for keeping nice tightness, keeping that legs nice and straight up and down. Same thing with your calves. Now, again, there's the whole debate between pointed toes and non-pointed toes. I've done both. Personally, for me, it just helps to point the toes and to keep everything nice and tight, as opposed to just letting my feet relax. Now, if that doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work for you. It's not a big deal, but I like to keep my toes pointed and to keep everything as nice and tight, and think about pulling yourself both up and down. It's weird, and I'll explain whenever I go through my exercises for this handstand. Now, for the antagonist, like I said, so for me, I am trying to make these muscles more of my antagonist than I am my agonist. So because of the way that I want to bow out, right? If I let my back do whatever it wants, it's going to end up pulling me to the outside, and I don't want that, because it ends up causing me to tip over. Now, again, you might be the reverse. You might be, no matter how hard you kick up and you come up, that you can't ever get it to hold to that position. If that's the case, then you were letting everything pull a little bit too hard down, and you're gonna have to try and relax this front part, your abdominals a little bit, and allow your back to kind of put in a little bit of work of pulling you to come up. Hopefully that makes sense, right? So if you like to tip forward, if you like to tip this way like I do, you're really gonna have to work on trying to pull everything down and back to the, quote unquote, like to the front of your body. If you are a person who tips too far forward, you can never almost like get yourself back up to here. You're really gonna have to try and relax your abdominals and let your back pull you to the middle. Okay, so that's gonna be it for the agonist and antagonist for the torso portion and lower body portion of the handstand. Your synergists are going to be just about every other muscle in your body that I didn't talk about. And I know that's very broad and very vague, but the handstand is a whole body movement. So especially when you're beginning and you're just starting out, you're really going to have to focus on keeping everything as tight and compact together as you possibly can. You can't really afford to be loose and wiggly just yet. We're not there yet. So any other muscle that wasn't discussed, especially like the tinier, more intricate muscles that are aligned in your body that do just about everything else, are going to be focused on trying to keep everything nice and tight and holding you there in that handstand. Now, again, when you get more advanced, then you can kind of start wiggling and then letting everything go, and then the synergists probably become a little bit more apparent of what is a synergist and what isn't, what becomes an agonist and antagonist. Again, there's variation and it depends on what thing that you're doing, but for this straight up and down handstand variation, the most basic handstand, just about every other muscle that I didn't discuss is going to be your synergist for this movement. So, what did we learn today? We learned about joint stacking, about how if we can keep everything up and down, it's going to be the most easiest position for us to hold. For our agonists, at least for our lower portion or upper portion, however you want to describe it, our shoulders are going to think of your shoulders kind of like the quads. Your tricep can be thought of as the calves, and your forearms can be thought of as the ankle, and your wrists can be thought of as the ankles for this handstand. For your torso, in my personal opinion, I think that it is dependent on which way you tip. So go back, review that again, maybe figure out which way you tip, and then see if you can't fix that off of what I said. And then for synergists, again, whole body movement. Everything is squeezing as tight as it can to keep you in that nice straight handstand position. Please, I hope y'all join me for the next video, in which I'll be going over how to start your handstand, just a very basic handstand tutorial using only about like 3 or 4 exercises that really helped me actually finally understand what it means to do a handstand. So, hope y'all have a great New Year's Eve, hope you have a great Christmas. I will see y'all in the next video. Please like, subscribe, let me know, comments down below what you think, what else you want me to review. Stomp tricking, follow me on Instagram, stomp.tricking, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.